there aren't many perfect weekends in the Premier League. This was one of them. Sheroy, this was, okay, you know what? Let's not call it perfect. Let's call it 9 out of 10. 10's perfect. It was a 9 out of 10 City one. But in terms of hate watchers, enjoying your rivals drop points, enjoying the one team you needed to lose in the manner they lost, with a last-minute goal to a former Arsenal player in a game they thoroughly deserved to lose, by the way, and for that to be followed up by Arsenal winning a game in the opposite fashion that they thoroughly deserved to win, with a late goal as well. I am buzzing, Sheroy. And this is a news podcast. We typically do it a few days after the game. We have the privilege of recording this the night of the match and it coming out first thing on the Monday. And that's, yeah, man, that's pretty incredible. I feel so energized and inspired by that win. And I'm going to shut up and let you just run with it, man. How are you? What a weekend.
Podcaster's dream. There aren't going to be that many episodes of this that we record this season where everything that could have gone our way went our way, and the performance and the result matches. Right? There are so many games where we get the result and we come on and there's a bit to dissect, or there's a bit to sort of worry about in terms of how it might play out next week. There are so many games where the performance could be good, but the result doesn't quite go your way, and that leaves a sour taste in your mouth. None of that today, man. If Carlsberg did weekends, as they say. How, outside of the football, how was your weekend? Have you been having a good weekend? Because this weekend was perfect for me anyway. I didn't want Arsenal to dampen it, and they've absolutely put the cherry on top.
Phenomenal weekend. Dare I say, I kind of wish we had like a bank holiday, like an extra day to really enjoy all this. The weekend was good. Friday night, I just had like a night in. Ordered a takeaway, which I haven't done for a little while. I was catching up with some friends. Saturday, I was on a stag do, which started at 11 a.m. And it was like a very civilized kind of drinking through London and stuff. But we were keeping an eye on the scores. And I didn't think Liverpool were going to lose. I thought they might draw. I didn't think they were going to lose because I thought they had too much firepower. They do go and lose. So there I am, admittedly having had a couple drinks, but I think I was okay. Pulling off, because the guy who's getting married is a massive tennis fan. So I was pulling off these kind of yellow sweatbands and headbands and everything. And I'm just like, right, focus. Liverpool have lost. Let's react to this on Goonerverse News, because I felt it was really important. And the reason I felt it was so important is because I always felt that Liverpool drawing might create this false sense of a draw's okay against Newcastle, but I never wondered what Liverpool losing would do. And I think it might have given us a sense of, you got a free hit here, because if you win and they win, you're 3 points behind. If they draw and you draw, if we both win, we're 5 points behind. If we both draw, we're 5 points behind, and you're kind of going all right with their kind of all acceptable results. But what if they lose? And I just think it must have reinvigorated the side, because that is the best, I was about to say first half, but it's the best football we've played all season, in my opinion. That game. Yeah. Whole game.
Completely. And look, whenever our players or whenever our manager, or sometimes whenever even parts of the fan base get asked, are you looking at other results? I know it's only game week 5, game week 6. A lot of people try and be quite sensible and quite proper and say, no, absolutely not. My God, it's so early. Who's looking elsewhere? You know, people haven't even jumped into a sprint yet. Still a gentle jog. Bollocks. Absolute bollocks. I'm telling you now, Arteta and the boys saw that result, and if they weren't already up for this game, they would have gone, first opportunity of the season to close this gap. Let's go, because they've been perfect up until now. We may not get many opportunities. There's a bit of sting in this Newcastle game anyway. Let's go. And I remember we were talking about energy with the lineup against City. Lineup came out at the same time today. That was a Sunday 4:30. Bro, my entire outlook going into the game, even though it was away from home, at a ground where I think we've had less success in recent years than we've had at places like Anfield. We can barely score against Newcastle in recent years, right? I still felt good going into that game when I saw that lineup. And I know I wasn't there. And I know I've never been to St. James away. But you could hear our away fans there, even though they're up in the gods. They're not by the corner flag. And every time the camera panned to those away fans, I just looked at all of them and I went, you're all G's. Every single one of you is a G, the way you were going. And that energy transmitted not just to the fans, but to the players. I'm sure we're going to get into it in depth, but that first half hour, I'm hesitant to say the whole half, because I thought we did sort of let the goal get to us a little bit, and it got a bit disjointed after that. And the penalty call, I think, sort of evoked a level of emotion where we didn't quite execute the game plan the way we did for that first half hour. But that first half, I struggle to think of another half-hour patch that we're going to see this season where I look at Arsenal and go, my God, you deserved a goal, the way in which we did then. And that manifests itself throughout the game with 20 attempts on goal. So, yeah, I agree completely with what you're saying about the performance.
I said something on the 25th minute. They showed a graphic on Sky, and it said we had 5 shots to their 2, 54% possession. And I said, I don't know why I said it out loud. I think my parents must have thought I was a complete nerd. Yeah. I said, oh, brilliant. So if we keep this up, we'll hit 20 shots by full time. I literally said those words because I was thinking that's the relentless nature at which you need to chip it away at a Newcastle to try and win that game. On the away game, on the away fans, you're right. You could hear them through the TV. But what I loved, this is no easy journey, especially on a Sunday. Trains are a shambles in this country. And I saw someone tweet, and I really wish I could credit him. Well, credit him, but, tell his story and say who it was. But he tweeted that his first train got cancelled, the second train didn't have space on it, and the third train didn't have seats, so he had to stand for 2 hours. And he said, I hope you're worth it, Arsenal. And these away fans are incredible because they make that journey time and time and time and time again. And I have so much respect for them. And wherever you're tuning in from around the world, because some people are getting up at 1 a.m., 4 a.m., whatever it is, staying up till late, planning their week around it. Some people have work and are going to go into work off 3 hours sleep. But when Arsenal give you that level of commitment and performance and energy, it fuels you. And Sheroy, I know there will be many skeptics who will say, yeah, right, James, yeah, right. But I'm going to say this anyway. I promise I was coming with good vibes at 1-1. That my match report would have been, I'm so gutted we didn't win. It feels like a missed opportunity, but I can't question the manager. I can't question the effort. I can't question the intensity or the football or the coaching. I can't question the endeavor and the want to win that game. I cannot do it. Sometimes the decisions just don't go your way. Sometimes it's just one of those. It's just one of those. And I'm delighted we won, but a little part of me wishes I could project to everyone the parallel universe in which we didn't win, so I could show everyone that what I felt post Man City wasn't about just we drew, so I threw my toys out the pram. It was about the performance and the intent to win the game and the endeavour we showed in that being miles off what we showed in this Newcastle game. And again, it comes back to it. I'm the man who celebrated the 0-0 draw against City because I appreciated effort and I appreciated what the team did. This team will win us over with performances and will have everyone behind them if that's what they give to the cause, not if they play within themselves, because we as fans are feeling braver about this team than it's looked like the team have felt. And in this game, the team and Mikel Arteta went, no, we back it. And I love that. And I feel so fueled by that, Sheroy.
The last show we did was looking at the first 5 games in isolation. If this game is anything like what we're going to see for the next 5 games, just in terms of performance, going back to what you were saying, this isn't based on I'm not saying if we're going to win the next 5 games 2-1, yeah, obviously that's great. But if the performance is like this for the next 5 games or even further, then I guarantee you large sections of the fan base, large sections of the media that a lot of people say don't have our best interests at heart, large sections of opposing fans that have a lot of sort of critique to level at Arteta and his mindset will quieten down, because at least you go out on your sword. If you show that you've got that belief and that intent from the word go, at least you've gone out on your sword and you've gone, you know what, I've assembled the squad. I'm going to try and utilize this squad to the best of its capability to instill fear in our opponents and play a brand of football that is still quite solid, but is far more capable of getting the amount of goals you need in a match than other brands of football that we've seen under this manager at times, right? And that's the point. There was a bit of criticism in the comments, which I absolutely don't mind, on the last video as to the fact that some people thought that we were perhaps reading into too much a little bit too early, right?
Yeah, it divided people. It did.
It did. And I think that's a good thing, to be honest with you, because it indicates that you're not really biased one way or another, right? You're you're calling it how you see it. I don't really have a problem with that. In fact, I welcome it. everything that we were talking about really wasn't the results, because 1-0 at Anfield can happen to anyone, bro.
Yeah,
We can beat them at the Emirates too. Like, that's not going to end their season if they lose at the Emirates. Likely not. It's going to be January. A point against Man City, home or away, that can happen. That has happened. That's not a catastrophic result. It was more about the way in which we went about those games, given the tools that we now have at our disposal. We saw those tools today.
Yeah,
we saw them in full flow, and my God, it made for, not for the entire game, because you're not going to be on top at St James's Park for 90 minutes. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I was surprised that we were as on top as we were for the first half hour even, right? Because it's a bloody difficult place to go.
Yeah.
But this is the first time that I've looked at this squad, this newly assembled squad, this squad that's trying to build chemistry amongst itself, a manager that's trying to really understand this squad and learn how to manage a squad like this. This is the first time I've looked at it and gone, okay, now I've got a sniff of the propensity that you have. Brilliant platform. And now, my God, I can't wait until Olympiacos. I can't wait until West Ham. I've started looking at our next 5 or 6 fixtures and I've gone, Is it a bit too much for me to say we could get 18 points all the way up until Tottenham in November? I don't know.
I just made that point on the live stream that I did on the Goonerverse after the game, player ratings analysis. I said, look, Arsenal need to think about momentum and runs, because that's what it's taken for City to topple. For Liverpool to topple City, is to build such a margin that teams go, we can't catch them, and you demoralise them time and time again. This is a very, very demoralising weekend for Liverpool. Extremely demoralising, because with seconds to go of both games, Liverpool would have just maintained their 5-point lead and gone, we got away with one, but it's a point, whatever. 5 points ahead of Arsenal, we keep it moving. It's 2 points because of 2 deserved moments. And I think that's what we hit. I don't think you can even rationalise this with, well, Arsenal were lucky, well, smash and grab from Palace. No, Liverpool were categorically outclassed, and Newcastle were categorically outclassed by Arsenal. We played much better at Newcastle than Liverpool played at Newcastle. There's no question about it. And these are the little messages we needed to send. Now, for any Liverpool fans watching this, and I'm not saying we're necessarily better than you, no, I'm not saying winning the title, I'm not saying all those things. I'm saying, when were Arsenal going to send their message and land their first big punch? And they did this weekend. And I even think, even if Liverpool had won at Palace, I still think this would have sent a big message. But to do it in response to Liverpool losing is even bigger. Now, I want to talk about the football we played for a second, because I could very easily, as could you, as could Turkish on his channel, as could very many of us, sit here and go, see, Eze in the 10. So we told you, Eze in the 10. Told you, Arteta, you did what we wanted. And that, I'm not going to go down that route. I'll tell you why I won't. Because we didn't play Eze in the 10 and win with some moments of magic from him. The football was sensational. That's coached. Arteta has done that. He's got the team and the dynamics correct to play that football. He's coached Gyökeres, so his hold-up play is getting better and better every game as he gets more fit and gets more comfortable with the league. By the way, I thought he bullied the Newcastle defenders. The way Eze was dropping into right centre mid, but then sometimes into the 10, and Rice was dropping into the defence so Zubimendi could get forward, that's all coached. The fact that we attacked with a 3-2-4-1 to sometimes a 3-2-5 because we were getting our 8s a bit higher, to sometimes playing with a 3-1-6 and sometimes a 2-1-7. Like, all of this is coached. Arsenal were understanding how to play every moment of the match, and they were doing what Jordan called for, which is attacking patterns. So I'd love to sit here and respond to all the critics from the last podcast, say, well, we were right. We told you. Yeah, we are a better team with Eze in the team. I don't think anyone's surprised we played better football with Eze in the 10 than Marino. I don't think we needed that proving. But what I'm really happy about is that the coached football was so much better. And we can't take any credit for that. That comes from the manager and the coaches. And well done to them. A huge congratulations. From that to the subs, everything, I thought Arteta got it spot on.
Yeah, sticking to the coaching for a minute. One of the biggest criticisms that's very often levelled at Arteta and this Arsenal team is you're predictable. We know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Look at the variety, the way in which we set these attacks up. Sometimes David Raya is dragging players on and going along with his boot. Right? He's looking for an opening and he does it. Sometimes we're playing around in the back, trying to bring them on. We find a bit of space. Sometimes David Raya is throwing it incredibly long. Right? And that's Gyökeres holding it up. But sometimes it's Timber to Saka. Sometimes it is Eze drifting in pretty centrally. Sometimes it's Calafiori galloping through. Sometimes Rice is in a slightly more advanced position. Sometimes, as you say, he drops into the defense. You can't have a regimented defense, a formulaic defense doing the same thing time and time and again when your opposition does that to you, because you're always on your toes, and that creates gaps. And what that does, I mean, what this game and what this weekend, in fact, encapsulates for me, man, so often we talk about moments, so often we talk about fine margins, and people go, no, you're overanalyzing small things. You're overanalyzing. Hear me out now. Arne Slot yesterday is talking about one decision that one of his players makes that he believes has cost them the goal. That goal has cost them points. Today, Mosquera, it's a pretty innocuous ball that goes out for a corner. That results in a goal, and that could have resulted in us dropping points for all we know, right? There are so many of these moments that lead to like sort of absolute game changing and potentially season defining bits of don't even really know how to describe it, but season defining pieces of a puzzle that you put together at the end of the season. No one knows how much this is going to be worth at the end of the season, but those moments are so key, and that's why we place such great emphasis on things like lineup. It could just be a small decision. It could be a personnel decision that really does just give you that minute that changes the course of a game. Even Gabriel today, bro. I mean, if you want to talk about moments, Gabriel's the perfect epitome of that today. That defensive moment was one of, in my opinion, I found that the most difficult defensive moment to watch for him because of who he is and what he stands for and how I know he can cope with that sort of attacker and that sort of cross. The way he went down there.
It was calamitous, wasn't it? Let's be honest. Like,
yeah.
I gave him a very high rating, and I'll explain why in a sec. But it's shocking on the goal.
But then what does he do? Another moment. You know, and I mean, and these things, it's beautiful to watch. It is beautiful to watch. But going back to the coaching, absolute blinder. Mm-hmm. He played an absolute blinder. He went in there brave, but he didn't go in there gung ho. You know, there was a happy medium. The defense was trusted, and players could express themselves. I don't know if you're doing a rewatch again on the Canon this week, but if you
I'm actually not able to. But George and Rohan will be doing that on the Canon. Yeah, that'll be good to see.
If anyone, I'm going to do this myself. I want to rewatch this because I picked up on it when I was watching this. Every time Saka got the ball last year, I used to look and go, "Oh, 3 men on him, 3 men on him, 3 men on him." This game, I saw 2 come to him, but I saw 2 have to occupy our number 14, and that's where you see the intelligence of Eza. And that's how he kept finding those spaces in the box. And that's why he had those two pretty decent strikes that could have gone in, right? And that impacts the attacking balance. It's wonderful, wonderful to see.
Yeah, totally agree. Look, it's not a post-game podcast. It's not an analysis podcast. I don't want to sort of harp on too much about the details, but I think what we really want to do in this podcast is look at the bigger picture and the bigger impact. And Gary Neville, who often gets very criticised for his commentary, I thought his commentary was good today. Did you listen to his commentary today?
And I listened to the Gary Neville podcast whilst I was making my dinner. Yeah.
Okay, how was it? Was it a good listen?
Very on side when it came to us, in all honesty. If anyone says that he's got an agenda against us, there are certain minutes where he goes, well, basically when we do what he says that we ought to do, he's quite complimentary. Yeah,
I thought his commentary was quite fair. And when we went 1-0 down, he said, Arsenal, don't let this get to you because you've been the better team. And he said something at 1-0 down, and I think it was spot on. He said, the one thing though, I'm paraphrasing, I'm sort of developing his point more for him, but I know exactly what he was meaning. He was basically saying, Arsenal kind of need a win like this from behind. Like, if we'd gone and just slapped them up 3-0, I don't think it sends a message as much as this win today does, where we've had a penalty overturned. We've had a goal that the players feel were harshly done by. I don't think it's a foul. And it's a stop-start game. It's awkward. It's physical. We're playing great football. It's not amounting to stuff. We've hit the post. Pope's turned into Gianluigi Buffon times 10.
Yeah.
And we make the subs and we make the changes. And Marino, much maligned for being in the team last week, gets the equaliser. Gabriel, criticised for the error, gets the winner. And we are sat there in the 96th minute going, Liverpool, we can do it too. And that, I think, is massive. I think that's a massive message to send out. And what Gary Neville was saying about they kind of need this kind of win, I thought, yeah, I know what he means. This will be so, for me, the season's taken off now. This has set a light under our season at a time where we're 2 points off Liverpool, but it's still early on, and Anfield, St James's Park, Old Trafford and City at home are all done. If someone offered this to me at the start of the season, I'm taking it. You tell me after all those games, we're second, 2 points off top. Where do I sign? Because you can build momentum after that. What's your feeling about the wider impact on the season? Or do you just take this as just kind of one game at a time? It is what it is. I'm curious how you feel about the bigger story here.
What Gary Neville said about us needing that, I think it's twofold. I think it is twofold. The first is, it comes from how I felt when I was watching it. When we went 1-0 down, we were playing well, and I thought we can get back into this, fine. But then we didn't get a goal before halftime. And then we didn't get a goal for a fair bit into the second half. And I sat there and I was watching it with Annie, and I looked at her and I said, honestly, I can't remember the last time we scored 2 in quick succession like this away from home in this sort of game. You know, I just can't, I still can't. I mean, I'm sure someone in the comments will let me know, but I couldn't remember it. So that's the first element. One, just to prove that it's within us. We have the propensity to do this, right? In the way that other teams demonstrate very, very regularly. We don't do it as regularly. So that was good to see. But two, it's exactly what you say. When you talk about the season taking off, I mean, of course, it can only really take off if you continue to build the momentum, right? You don't just let this slip. You use this as a platform. But it just felt like an ignition. It felt like an igniting moment. And I'm not just talking about the passion with which we celebrated, or the fact that we got the 3 points, or the fact that Liverpool didn't get the 3 points, but it was the fact that Martin Odegaard could come on, a player that's received his fair share of criticism, a lot of it, I think, unwarranted. And even the opposition manager has looked and said, when Odegaard came on, he changed the game. He started breaking the lines in a way that wasn't happening before he was on the pitch, right? So we're just getting those reminders. Marino, you mentioned, a guy that was, I know a lot of the criticism again wasn't quite targeted at Marino. It was more targeted at what that.
You're right to say that. It's not really about him. Yeah.
Look, it was more about what the midfield balance looked like and what the attacking threat looked like. But ultimately, his name is one that gets mentioned a lot. He comes on and he scores a bloody important goal.
What a header!
It's incredible, bro. Like they're some of the best strikers in the world probably wouldn't be able to do that, man.
Is he the best finisher in the team?
He's an enigma, isn't he? Because you look at some of the goals he scored. And you look at I'm sure his chance conversion ratio in terms of maybe not just clear-cut chances, but even half chances. He's good. He's good. He might be the best finisher in the team. It's difficult to say that when you've got Gyökeres around, who scored God knows how many goals last season, right? But in terms of the caliber of finish, bro, he's right up there. His goals just look quality. But again, so you have that reminder of what these guys can do and the value they hold. And I thought Martinelli looked good when he came on too. So it felt like an ignition moment where we didn't need to rely upon Saka. We could take him off after an hour or whatever it was. The depth really shone. The manager, I want to come on to him, but the manager also showed something else again, right? Showed something else again where it breeds excitement. It breeds expectation. And regardless of whether anyone around us says they're not looking at us, they were watching that and going, all right. That game on now, isn't it? Game on.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely felt that from rival fans. I was looking around, a lot of them were going,
Did you see Saeed?
Well, he was thanking us, wasn't he? I've only seen the title.
He was celebrating like it was a United victory.
I wonder because he hates Liverpool and City,
absolutely,
right? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to watch. It's wonderful.
No, I hear that. If I thought Tottenham looked nailed on to win the title, I'd be celebrating goals that stick it to them. So I hear it. Yeah, it's a really strange one, this, because like the mood has flipped so quickly. And 2 weeks ago we were saying the vibes are there, and you said to me on WhatsApp, you said, so the vibes back, and I said, well, yeah. And I kind of, this might not make sense. I always felt that the club were like in control of whether the vibes were going to be there or not. I was like, everything's there. The resources are there. Because we're still talking about Jesus, Havertz, Madueke, all out injured, White just returning, Saliba not fit enough to start, according to Mikel Arteta. You know, there are still little hurdles that the team are overcoming. Saka not fit enough to play a full 90. But at no point did I think, what can we do? We don't have enough here. We had enough. And it came through in, like I said, the endeavour and the effort. And I'm glad we've spent some time giving Arteta credit, because from the football to the 11 he picked to the game management, bringing Lewis Skelly on, I thought was the right thing at 1-1 because you don't want to do what Liverpool got wrong the day before, which is lose it because you don't have enough cover. But also, to bring on Saliba because you recognise Mosquera was struggling. I really enjoyed that from Mikel. Like I enjoyed the way he managed the game in particular. And on the sidelines, he was making his thoughts known and felt. And I want to do a section I actually think we should do a section on the PGMOL in a bit, because I think just because we've got the euphoria of the win, I don't think we should just kind of ignore that. So we'll get into that. But let me just ask you about a few more players. Victor Gyökeres. He's winning me over more and more, man. I liked his performance. I thought he did good. But am I crazy? Well, how did you see it?
People are going to laugh. I thought it was one of his best performances in an Arsenal shirt, bro. Don't forget, we were going up against a team that have one of, if not the best defensive record in the league this year, right? These guys are no joke, and they are physical, bro. They are physical. And you could see it right up until the end when Lascelles grabbed Gyökeres by the face, like when you're trying to muzzle a dog, right? And no one said anything about that. But it was incredibly physical. The way he put himself about, the way that there were a lot of balls that ultimately, even when David Raya was trying to find him, they weren't right at him, bro. He's really good at judging the flight of the ball. He's really good at letting or knowing when to let it bounce. And that's not something I'm very keen on players doing in that situation, but he knows when to do it so he can get that little advantage. I know we bought him to score goals. I know we did. But in a situation where you're not getting the chances, that is something that you can do. That is the bare minimum that you can do. And he does it very, very well. And what that does, I'm going to keep saying it, when you're occupying one defender, when you're occupying two defenders, it gives other people the space and the license. He's so tenacious, bro. So tenacious.
Yeah. And his touch was cleaner, wasn't it? Like I thought he was a wall pass for people. He was bringing people into play. His touches were going in the right areas, in tight spaces. He was able to use his body and his skill to make things happen. Like there was a lot I really liked about how he led the line for Arsenal, because there was a range of playing centrally, give it to me, to give me a transition, to hit the channels so I can open up space in another way. And you're right, this is not just a really physical back four. This is one that actually have clean sheets on the board, several of them already this early in the season. I thought he bullied them, man. I didn't think they could get near him, and that really surprised me. I wasn't expecting him to have that much joy against them.
Decent combinations too. As you said, in tight spaces, but there were so many times where he didn't really think too much. Popped it off. Sometimes it didn't come off, but I'm not one of those guys that's going to shit on you for taking the risk to try and do something adventurous. How can I sit there and do that when I'm criticizing people for not necessarily being brave enough or not taking enough risks? I like the fact that he does that, and he backs himself, and he has the confidence to go, I'm going to pop it off first time. Because if I get this right, then we're in. I really, really rated it. And look, no one can see into the future, but I do think that if he continues doing what he's doing, the goals will come, and there will be a lot of them.
Yeah, I agree. Good on him. Couple other performances. Declan Rice. Let's go to Declan Rice. And by the way, we're not going to mention I thought Eze, for example, was great. Timber. But I want to talk about the ones where I saw a very particular battle in front of them. Gyökeres with that back four, and then it became a back five. Declan Rice up against one of the most physical but also like leggy midfields. I mean, Joe Linton, Tanane and Guimaraes will run all over most midfields, and Declan Rice one-man and Zubimendi was class, Eze brilliant. They were a team, but Rice was sensational.
Where did you prefer Declan Rice today? Because we saw him in my opinion anyway, two primary positions. Which was your favourite? Or not favourite, but which do you think going forward could positively impact the team the most?
You know when Tacticos, of which sometimes I try to sound like one, when Tacticos refer to platforming. Mm-hmm. And essentially, for anyone listening who, and I'm not trying to sound condescending, I'm genuinely trying to be helpful, platforming is basically saying, who do we put up as you are going to be crucial, and we're going to ensure the system fits what your strengths are. For me, he platformed Declan Rice today. And what I mean by that is he looked at the game and went at 0-0, quite a stretch game. Rice getting up and down the pitch is going to be brilliant for us. He's going to find space, and he rolls it into Trossard, who hits the post. And that is vintage Declan Rice, because when that move kind of breaks down, they start going the other way. You look at your screen and Rice is already back in position. That's platforming him brilliantly. But what Arteta did was not just settle and go, oh, but it worked. What he did was recognise that the game state changed at 1-0 down. But having Rice in the pockets isn't going to suit him. And we've done that chasing games because we've tried to hit the back post, because we've tried to get him to just run through space that isn't there. What he did was he dropped him back for two reasons. A, gives him the space to play and use his legs and counter transitions that were going to come from Newcastle. And he did brilliantly when Murphy was through on goal. But also it moves Zubimendi slightly higher up the pitch where he's got a little bit more guile to do something. Now that position doesn't platform Zubimendi. Zubimendi's platformed at the 6 where he just moves the ball around. But Arteta recognised that you can't keep trying to beat Newcastle without stopping them. It's not you can't just go, well, they'll stop themselves. There has to be an element of we are still dealing with their threats. And the way Arteta dealt with that, I thought was sensational. And that's why I saw Rice as the platformed midfielder today, where he went, we're going to tweak your role to suit what you need. And that is going to give us the best, platform, for want of another word, to go and win this game. So sorry for the long, wordy, tactical answer, but that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, don't apologize. That was incredible.
No,
I always learn a lot when I'm on these podcasts for you, believe it or not, mate.
I learn a lot from you, so thank you very much. And I mean that.
Appreciate it, man. The Declan Rice moment, this is going to sound so ridiculous because I know some people aren't the biggest fans of me doing this whole psychology thing, but I'm going to do it anyway. When you look at Arteta greeting all of the players after the full-time whistle has gone, he goes up to Ebbs and he's sort of like, hey, well done. Like, this is what it's about. How does it feel? Whatever. Not those words, but you can see what their expressions are, yeah? He goes up to a number of players, goes up to Declan Rice. Declan Rice just goes, come on. And they grab it. Like, he is, honestly, he's Arteta's enforcer, bro. He is Arteta's enforcer. And I understand why all this captaincy chat comes along, because if there's one thing about Declan Rice, there's never a moment where you look at him and you think, is he going to give absolutely everything to win this game? Does he really want to win it as much as the fans do? Does he really want to get the Premier League trophy? Does he really understand the manager's messaging? None of that. Absolutely none of that. He was so gassed about that win, and he was a pivotal player in that win. And I think Arteta, when it comes to acquiring players externally that have a particular kind of mentality, I really do think that if Arteta does win one of these majors, that Declan Rice signing is going to be one of those that we speak about for 100%. Years and years and years to come. The guy is a transformative player, absolutely transformative player. And I know exactly what you're saying about platforming. I did think we looked, perhaps it was because of the game state, or the personnel that were on the pitch at the time, because I know this was at a stage where I think Voltemade had come off. It was very much sort of Elanga, and that was pretty much it at that point. But Declan Rice was then a little bit more advanced, and when he was in that position, I feel an element of trust and safety with him on the ball in those situations, And I very, very often think he is going to choose the right option. I think he is going to pick the right pass, and I know that it doesn't necessarily suit him to be in the pockets, but he also has that variety where he knows how to link up in close quarters, but he can just ping it to the other flank. He can switch plays so easily. In a way that not a lot of players in the world can, let alone a lot of players in our team. Yeah. Look, fantastic. I'm curious to see who the other player that you want to speak about is, because there were so many. Yeah, there were. I want to talk about Jurgen Timber. Now, the reason I have him third, bring anyone else to the party by all means. The reason Timber's the final one I bring up. So I think I've said Gyökeres, Rice, and Timber, and we'll go through yours after. But I was quite hard on Timber after Anfield. And then there was another game where I wasn't particularly blown away with what he did going forward. I still believe Ben White has a more natural range of crossing and a better instinctive understanding of how to overlap and support Saka. But let's flip the word platform. Not platforming someone, creating a platform for the team. Jurgen Timber must be a footballer's dream to play with, because he's going to win every header, every duel. If they get past him, he's going to recover. Super technical, skillful, tight possession, like really tight first touch, looks after it well. And he's a bloody trier. Like he is just relentless. And I might be remembering it wrong, so please tell me. If I'm not mistaken, I think the second goal comes from Gabriel crossing it, but it's like too high and wide, but Timber gets there. I might be wrong. Somehow it kind of ends up with a Newcastle player, but Rice and Timber basically through sheer want nick it back to the point where Arsenal then have a bit more sustained pressure. Am I right? Does that make do you remember a part of the game where
literally 91st, 92nd minute where we're in that right corner and Rice and Timber should never have come away with the ball, but they did.
Maybe. Are you talking about the second goal?
Yeah, I think so.
The second goal, from memory, this is how you know we're recording it right after the game. The second goal comes from Pope, in my opinion, being overzealous and playing a terrible, terrible ball when he's trying to play a Langer through, and that's when we end up getting possession back, and that lob cross does come in, and we get the corner. That's what I thought.
Okay, sorry. So apologies, guys. I might be remembering it wrong, but there was definitely a moment where I think it was 1-1, and Rice and Timber. Like I was watching it going. They're going to press, but they're not going to come out with this. And they did. I think Rice just kind of reached his leg around whoever it was, maybe Gordon or Barnes, keeps it in play. Timber fights, gets through two players. And I'm thinking, these guys must be exhausted, but they just want it. And I've gone on and on about Timber, but, you know, I'm always very conscious of when I've been particularly critical of a player for a particular thing, that I don't want to miss an opportunity to really heap the praise on when I think they've like really earned it, and regardless of whether he'd been great or poor in previous games, for today's performance alone, I thought Jurien Timber was an absolute soldier on the pitch today. I love that guy. I absolutely love this player.
Bro, and almost every other player in this team up until now this season has had protection in the form of, don't worry, bro, we can take you off at half time. We'll bring someone else on. Or don't worry, we'll give you an hour. He hasn't really had that, man, because Ben White got injured early, and don't forget he's coming back from a serious injury where he had to do this all of last season. He shouldn't have had to play the minutes he did last season either. How often do people come back from an injury like that, James? And you see them; they're not quite diving into challenges in the same way, bro, because they don't want it to go again. He puts his body on the line every single time. Every single time. You would never have known the amount of minutes that he has under his belt since he's come here. You would never have known not just the amount of injuries, but the type of injuries that he's had to deal with since he came here. And that is testament to him. He's one of those players that when you look back at teams gone by, even if you look at, I'm not comparing us to them before anyone shits their pants. If you look at the Invincibles, there were a couple of players that were integral parts, but they just don't get mentioned that much because they were headline grabbers. But they were very important. They were very, very important when it came to the success of that team. Timber's one of them.
Yeah, agreed. Go on. Who do you want to talk about?
I'll be honest, man. Like I've mentioned him already. It is Ødegaard. It really is.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought him up. Yeah.
The reason I want to talk about him is, I'm not saying this with hindsight. I'm not saying this because Eddie Howe felt this way when he came on. I just thought, I get to see him now with Eza, and just seeing them both on the pitch. You know, very often when we have either or, it's like, oh no, get the ball back to him. He's the only one that could. No, we don't need to think about that now. There was an element of trust when Ødegaard had the ball. He's one of the only players on the pitch that I think has the propensity to play that ball through to Miles Lewis-Skelly, whether he could have squared it earlier or not. But what a pass, right? And that is something that when you're up against a low block, when you're up a team that wants to protect a lead, when you're up against a team that wants to hold out for a draw, that is what you need. And there aren't many players that are able to do that. The beautiful thing is now we've got a glimpse of it when we've had them both on at the same time. I want to see that more often. I completely understand we're not going to. There are certain situations in games where you can't have them both on at the same time. And you don't need them both on at the same time at all times. But I firmly believe that the best version of Arsenal that we're going to see is when they're both on the pitch at the same time, because that level of creative outlet, not just from him, but also Eza, is going to be something that I think wreaks havoc amongst defences. And a lot of people, again, look, with Ødegaard, that corner, how many corners did we, I'm not shitting on Saka here, but how many corners did we have from that flank that didn't quite amount to anything, right? Ødegaard's been on the pitch for what, 10 minutes by that point, if that. He hasn't had a lot of football. Big moment, steps up, it's muscle memory, it's class. Form is temporary, class is permanent.
It's not easy to find your rhythm, Sheroy. Like sometimes you need a few just to go, right, okay, I've picked up he did really well there because Pope was dominating his area. I'm glad you brought up Ødegaard because my favourite thing about his performance was there's something in football where you fake trying. And I think it's very easy to run around a lot, try a ball to the back post, it gets headed away. Bruno Fernandes does a lot of this. Now, to be fair, Bruno Fernandes is a top player who gets top numbers and produces moments of magic. He's a more moments player than Ødegaard. So that's probably why he tries such high volume. But Ødegaard wasn't just, I'm going to whip it in first time. I'm going to shoot for the sake of it. I'm going to come on and try and look really busy because he was really intelligent. And I think what he recognised was firstly he got us moving the ball around. But after we equalised, we actually probably didn't have an attack for another 3-4 minutes, but 3 minutes maybe. And I think what we recognise is we need to encourage Newcastle to go all the way back, because right now they're sensing they could win this. Actually, straight after the equaliser, they think there's a hand for Gabriel, and we're thinking, oh my God, have we lost this and whatever. We'll talk about the decisions and the VAR and PJM in a sec. So what he did, he just got us playing, kept it moving, kept it ticking, finding passes, whatever. And then he plays that ball when you're thinking, this might be on. He doesn't know it's definitely on. He doesn't, he's not forcing it. He's gone, right, let's keep him working it. Bam, that's the pass. And I thought that was brilliant. And what I loved about the cross from the corner is, again, you can get gassed by something that worked. Declan Rice and his corners were being punched by Pope, so he went short and then whipped it into Marino to create separation in the box. Great header, great finish. Arsenal could have done the same, but Ødegaard went, I got one chance at this and I'm putting it straight in. And I love that. That's personality. We always remember the Danny Welbeck header against Leicester, 2-1, 96th minute. But we always remember that it was Ozil that took it because he nailed it. Now, that didn't lead to a title, but I hope this one from Ødegaard does. So I'm so glad you brought him up. I thought the personality, but the maturity of the way he came on to try and impact the game was huge. And I hope people realise that, Martinelli has benefited from Eze coming into the team. Why can't Ødegaard? Why can't he also get better for the added quality around? So
not just get better. That makes complete sense. I think with a lot of players, they benefit from having the entirety of a burden taken away from them. When you're looking at one player for all your goals, when you're looking at one player for all your goal line clearances, when you're looking at one player for all your attacking threat from width, very often it's just a bit like, can't just be me, and that can actually lead, that can have a slightly deleterious impact upon the way in which they play the game. Take a little bit of the burden away from him. Now it's not just him that can play that pass, it can be Eze as well. And I think that's when you really see him flourish. I think you definitely said, you use words like maturity, you use words like intelligence. The only word that I want to add to that is composure. He did not come on and start running around like a headless chicken. He was not panicked. He was so composed, so calculated. And that told. And that ultimately, albeit because Pope was a little bit overzealous, that was the difference.
Yeah, totally agree. And look, guys, we could talk about Eze. We could talk about Saka, who I thought really did some great stuff today. We could talk about the response from the centre-backs. We could talk more about Gyökeres, the Marino sub, and a few things. But I actually think it's really important we use this last 15 minutes to talk about VAR and the PGMOL. And the reason I think it's important is two reasons. Firstly, I don't think every single decision went against us. And that, I think, makes this a more interesting conversation. And also, we're doing it off the back of a win and a euphoric win. And I think these conversations lose weight and significance when there's always that undertone of, well, we lost and I'm pissed off and whatever. Let's go through some of the main decisions, and I want to get your thoughts on them first before we have the bigger chat. So the obvious one, Gyökeres through on goal, Pope gets a touch, brings Gyökeres down, penalty given, VAR, send the ref to the monitor, who then overturns it. What do you think?
I'm reading it out. Premier League website, yeah? The decision of the referee, known as the referee's call, will stand unless, in the opinion of the VAR, based upon the evidence readily available, that call is a clear and obvious error. However, I'm trying to get my head around this. If a clear and obvious error is identified by the VAR for subjective decisions, after checking the attacking possession phase for any clear infringements by the attacking team, the VAR will advise the on-pitch referees to use the pitch-side monitors to review the incident and make a final decision. They then go on to say, factual on-field decisions in the four situations will not be subject to the clear and obvious error test. I didn't know this. I looked at this because I wanted to make sure I didn't come on here and make an arse out of myself. So, factual on-field decisions in these four situations will not be subject to clear and obvious error. Factual offside, accidental handball by the goal scorer, but this is the interesting one. If a foul was committed inside or outside the penalty area. I take that to mean the clear and obvious test does not apply to penalty decisions.
or anything.
Oh, they go on. There's more. The ball out of play, goalkeeper movement or encroachment. They go on.
So
They
basically,
go on.
clear and obvious no longer exists.
But and that's what I mean. I don't know when that went up. I don't know when they snuck that in there. But it seems as though clear and obvious doesn't apply to penalties anymore.
Yeah.
So this whole thing about we're not going to re-referee the game, they've just basically exempted themselves from most of the big turning points in games. It seems as though the only clear and obvious error thing that they can really be looking at now is a red. That's really going to turn a game. So I don't know if we can even use the clear and obvious thing when it comes to the penalty, which I was going to come on and say that. That's why I said, let me look into it.
Yeah, fair play to you for bringing that, man. This is why you're top. This is why
there's the sneaky little lawyer in me. But if you want to know what I think, mate, anyone who's ever run a defender or a goalkeeper at that pace and has just gotten there first, I don't care how much contact there is. You're going down, and it's not even like you're diving. It's going to take you out. And I'm going to sound like one of those grumpy old uncles. I don't like watching this stuff back in slow-mo, because when you watch stuff back in slow-mo, mate, I mean, it removes context from the decision. That was a penalty for me. And there absolutely wasn't enough to look at that and overturn it, in my opinion. That being said, am I happy that we didn't let it get to us for the remainder of the game? We let it get to us for a bit, but we didn't piss and moan for the full 90.
Yeah.
So fair play. But for me, that once given should stay.
Okay, so let's talk about the two things. So firstly, the clear and obvious thing. Well, thank you for bringing that, because that was going to be my big argument, that I don't think it's clear and obvious, and I don't think they should be. So, but now that they've changed the way that rule applies, I'm like, I'm confused. So let's ignore that, because once again, the PGMOL are confusing. Their rules are a mess. They change them every year. We don't know what's going on. So, like, they are just impossible. They are impossible. Let me give the PGMOL some credit. Firstly, I like that now refs have to explain to the crowd. I think that's a positive change. And secondly, unless I'm mistaken, tell me in the comments. I'm not defending the PGMOL. No one hates them more than me, trust. I don't think this season we've had any utterly scandalous ones. I think there have been ones where you're like, come on, that's wrong. But I'm talking utterly scandalous. And I think this time a year ago, we might have had 3 or 4. Like, I remember thinking the Declan Rice second yellow for the red at Brighton, Trossard, things like that. Scandalous. You're ruining football. Yeah. As far as I'm aware, I can't really think of any that I'm like, scandalous. That is a shocker. Even people were talking about, Salah handballing it yesterday. But when I was watching it on replay on Match of the Day, I couldn't see he really clearly handballed it. I saw the screenshot that looked like he had. But like, even then, I think it's a handball and they should disallow it. But I'm not screaming, that's a scandal.
Yeah.
So let me just get that in there. My biggest problem is, and this is where I'm going to sympathise massively with us as Arsenal fans, I still think there's a trend of us always being on the non-benefit of the doubt side. I do really feel like we are always in the, but you could say, we're always on that side. So Lewis Skelly, you could argue that he catches the Wolves player high on the ankle. No, but we can all see that he's gone to trip him, and that's unfortunate, and it's a yellow card tackle, and it wasn't reckless, it's whatever. But no, because there is some evidence for a red, they're going to give it. Saliba, when João Pedro heads the ball onto Saliba's head, and then Saliba catches him. It's a very good comparison to this one. And I remember we all felt that shouldn't be a penalty. Saliba's touched the ball. So to be fair, I do think if we think that's not a penalty, the Saliba Pedro one, then we shouldn't think this Pope Gyökeres one is either. But why are we on the end of the one that's given to us and the one that's taken away from us? It's not one each. It's not they both went our way. It's once again, they both went against us. And I do feel, and it's not corruption. It's not bias. I just feel we are so unlucky. And I'm getting to a point where I just think with us, like maybe because we're in such high profile games, I don't know. There's kind of like an added layer of scrutiny that I find really, really difficult to stomach when I just think, honestly, other teams would have been given that. Brian and Bemo, Sanchez does get a small touch on the ball, but he's brought him down. Now, final thing I'll say, because I'm harping on, so sorry, is what's my ultimate opinion? I've had 5-6 hours to think about this. My opinion is we need to define whether a player has won the ball. I don't think Pope has won the ball. I think Pope has touched it because Gyökeres has. If the ball's played through and Gyökeres never touches it, I'd say he's won the ball. But because Gyökeres touches it, he's the one who's directed where the ball's going, and he's happened to direct it towards Pope, who has then clattered him when Gyökeres could have gone round and put it into the back of the net. Or the attack could have developed further. So has Nick Pope won the ball? Has he won possession back for Newcastle? Absolutely not. He absolutely hasn't. So I have been torn. I don't think it's a shocker. I don't think that is one of the most scandalous decisions ever. And I can see why it's not been given. But I think the rule should be that those are, like the Mbemo one and like that one. Oh, shut up now. Sorry for the long monologue, but I really needed the step-by-step to it. Where do you land on it?
One thing that really confused, personally, I go back to what I said at the beginning. When you've got an attacker who's running in at that pace, if the keeper doesn't get an absolutely clean touch on the ball, then I think 99 times out of 100, those are penalties. I don't think it was overly theatrical. I think there was more than enough contact. One thing that really confused me, you might know the answer to this, bro. So Gyökeres gets taken out. The ball's at Saka's feet. Pope's still on the floor. But because the whistle goes, we stop playing. We're in a good position there. But after it's overturned, Newcastle get the ball back.
Yeah.
And they now have possession. I'm sort of like, hold on. You told us that we had a penalty, so we stopped, despite the fact that our best player now has the ball. But now you get possession back. Like, what's going on? It made no sense to me. I don't think they gave a free kick for Gyökeres fouling Pope in that situation, so I'm really not sure what's going on there. But I'm so glad that we're not sitting here talking about this from a place of we've dropped points, right? And I think it might actually be an apt moment going on to what you're saying about defining winning the ball and defining unnatural position and all of these things. What's your view on the Gabriel one with his arm up here, that challenge? Because I look at that first time and I think, what a tackle, right? But then I look at it again, and in 2025, having seen VAR look at a hell of a lot and knowing it's Arsenal at St James's Park, I'll be honest, I thought they were going to give that. I did think they were going to give that.
What do you think it should be before I go?
No, man. Again, it's not a penalty. If anyone who's dived in for a challenge, you can't dive. You don't dive like that. You don't make slide tackles like that. I understand his arm is particularly high, but it's not weird. He's thrown his body at that in a last-ditch attempt, right? And also, again, I'm pretty sure there's an ever so slight ricochet. I think maybe he gets there first and it hits Elanga's foot and then goes straight onto his arm. He's not deliberately trying to gain an advantage by doing that. For me, there's something in my gut told me it shouldn't be. But when I looked at it, knowing the era that we're in, knowing the way that all of these angles operate, knowing how much they slow it down frame by frame, someone's in the ref's ear, worried about consequences, I thought that was going to be given. And my heart sank. I was so relieved when I saw them use a little bit of common sense and go, okay, cool.
So, did you watch Villa Fulham? The 2 o'clock kickoff?
No, I didn't.
Don't blame me.
I thought that was going to be a 0-0, but yeah.
Yeah, so interestingly, 2 comparable incidences for us. So Josh King is through on goal, and he touches the ball round Emi Martinez, and then he's taken out by Emi Martinez. Now, I actually agreed with the PGMOL, who didn't give the pen and booked King. Okay, they shouldn't have booked him. I don't think it was a dive. I think he's within his right to anticipate contact and go down on contact. But when he touches the ball away, he's got the opportunity to round Martinez or go over, but you see him go down and Martinez follows through, which you expect. So I think the right decision is no penalty, no yellow card. You've been caught, but it's not a penalty, mate. You could have got out of the way. It's a collision. We get on with the game.
You made a choice there.
Yeah. So that's different to the Gyökeres one, where Gyökeres can't get out of the way. He's quite literally tried to, and he's been smacked down, whether Pope's got the ball or not. And what's interesting about that is Emi doesn't get the ball, but I don't think it's a pen. But Pope does or touch it, but I do think it's a pen.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we need to start looking more at what opportunity is afforded to the attacker to do what they got to do. King had the opportunity. Great young player, by the way, King. Not trying to knock him. Very good young player. And Gyökeres is through on goal. One tries to kind of keep it going. The other doesn't. Okay. And then there's a handball incident. So King, who's brilliant against Villa, has a shot from distance, and Cash has actually run beyond the ball. And if the shots come from this way, like it's coming towards him this way, it's his back arm that has caught it behind. So it's behind him. Does that make sense? So Cash is trying to get the block in, but it's hit his arm. It's hit his back arm from behind him. But his arm is far from his body and it's quite clearly going towards goal. And my instinct was, that's a pen. You know, that struck him cleanly on the arm, and the body's quite far away. The torso is quite far away from the ball. It's touched his arm. So then I asked myself, does every penalty, or every handball, should I say, have to be deliberate? Well, no. It can be unfortunate. Things happen in sport that you don't mean, but it can happen. Like when you're done by a piece of skill and you foul the winger, you didn't mean to foul him, you got done. And I think that should be true of handball. So I don't think every handball has got to be put down to, well, could he have done anything else? But where, again, I don't think the Gabriel one is a handball, it's because Gabriel's made the tackle and it's ricocheted onto his arm. So there was no way in hell he could have possibly dealt with that situation any differently. Who was it? Was it Elanga who got the cross in?
I think so, yeah.
If Elanga had crossed it straight onto his arm, even though he's diving, I think it's a pen. Because, yes, it's your job to try make yourself big and block the cross. It's also your job not to use your hands doing it. Like, it's a rule. By the way, when you play football, don't use your hands with anything. You know what I mean? It is part of what you are and aren't allowed to do. So I think the fact he got the tackle in is why, and it's ricocheted onto his arm, is why it's not a penalty. But my God, these are technical. You see how much detail we're having to go into with each one.
But even in your other hypothetical scenario, they would have to go into an equivalent amount of detail, because they would then say, fine, arm might be in an unnatural position, but they've now been instructed to look at the proximity of the person to the ball, and that was very, very close quarters again, right? So there is an argument that, well, what can Gabriel do? He's gone in for a challenge, arms in an unnatural position, but could he have feasibly got out of the way of that? What's he meant to do in that situation? I do think they would have given it if it was that situation, by the way. I absolutely do. Yeah. I think the fact that he successfully made the challenge gets him off the hook there. But look, I'm with you. There are certain decisions where I look at them and I go, even with the tightest rules in the world, there is an element of subjectivity there. People are different. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I can accept that, and I can accept that some might go our way, some might not. Yeah. And that generally evens itself out throughout the course of a season. But there are some where I just sit there and I go, I can't help it. I don't know whether it's just Arsenal fans. I don't know but there are some where I think if that were another team, they would have let that go. And the Gyökeres one is one of those. I think that if that were another team, that would have been a very, very quick VAR check and call penalty.
And Sheroy, you make a great point. With that one, the Gabriel one, the Matty Cash one I referenced, I can live in a world where some of those are given and some aren't, because I appreciate it's so subjective and they're all different. But I don't think I can accept that Mbemo is rewarded and Gyökeres isn't. Because for me, there's quite a clear thing. Basically, has the goalkeeper touched it before taking him out? Now, if they come out and they say blanket rule, if you get a touch on the ball, we count that as winning it, and it's not a foul, it's a contact sport, get on with it. We can all stomach that. But if that's not the rule, then they need to make it really clear what constitutes winning it. So is it the striker gets a touch first before the goalkeeper? Is it that there has to be a significant movement of the ball away from goal? I don't know what it is, but there has to be something. I prefer having these combos from a 2-1 win than a 1-0 defeat and we're all crying.
Oh my God. I know how many times have we sat there and spoken about the small margins and things going against us, and that being the reason why we're dropping points. And to be honest with you, man, this season, there have been a number of instances where the small margins could have gone against us. I think today was probably the most notable, but the squad has prevailed. The talent, the personnel has prevailed. Mikel Arteta said it himself at the back end of last season. He said, more often than not, the teams with the best players are the ones that go on and win these things. And this was precisely the sort of game where that told, because we ultimately, Newcastle were very resilient and they didn't need to create much to get their goal, but when they got their chance, they took it. And they defended quite resiliently throughout. You know, it wasn't, I know we were creating a lot, but I mean, they did well. I want to give them credit for the way they defended. The better team won on the day, and that was us.
Totally agree. And that's a really good way to leave it, guys. We'll be back next week for another Goonerverse podcast. Like we said, this isn't really a post-match podcast. Deeper thoughts are, well, one day on Sheroy's voice, if that comes back. Obviously, I did my live player ratings and a little bit of analysis on that. I think I will do some kind of breakdown on what Arsenal are doing to break teams down, but that might come on the Tuesday. I think today we just wanted to enjoy this podcast. We had to get it out earlier because of certain circumstances with me. So, yeah, it's an earlier Monday upload. And guys, I'm delighted, over the moon. And like I said, like you said, I'm excited for another week of Emirates football. Let's just hope we get a few more wins and we build momentum on this, because let's not waste what was a really fueling performance for our season. Sure, any final words?
One question. Let me know in the comments, and you let me know as well. There's a possibility that I might be able to get tickets for the Olympiacos game, but it's in the Olympiacos end. Should I go? I could pass as Greek, couldn't I? If I had to.
Are you going to be wearing an Arsenal shirt?
They're not going to let me do that. They're not going to let me do that.
Say, don't do that.
They're not going to let me do that. They're not going to. I've been toying with the idea. It's not guaranteed, but
I think that'd be quite an experience. I think that would be amazing. Let me know if you do. I look forward to hearing that.
I'd be going with a Greek Cypriot as well if I were able to go. So it'd be quite interesting. Let's see.
Well, I'm fascinated to hear if you do. Let me know. We'll talk about it on the next podcast.
I turn up at the next pod with a black eye and you'll know that I went, basically. That's what
let us know in the comment section below, guys. Big thanks. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this podcast. It is coming weekly. And we've got some other things up our sleeves. So I look forward to telling you all about that. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Sheroy's voice. He'll be back, I've no doubt. When you're ready, my friend. We are missing your Monday content. And Arsenal win. It's a 2-1 win at Newcastle with 2 points behind Liverpool, 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat, and the opportunity to build some momentum in the coming months. Let's see if we take that opportunity that's not just presented itself, that we've earned. Well done, Arsenal. Great win. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you in a bit.